like work-life balance is a myth? You're not alone. But what if AI could help? Welcome to the AI Empowered Mom podcast. AI Empowered Mom is on a mission to reduce the mental load of parenthood through AI assistance, helping moms delegate the draining and reclaim their time and energy. I'm Sarah Dooley. I'm the founder of AI Empowered Mom and the host of the AI Empowered Mom podcast. And I am joined by the amazing Suzanne Brown, fractional CMO, marketing strategist, work-life balance speaker, consultant, and award-winning author. Suzanne has been featured in dozens of publications, including the Harvard Business Review, Time, The Washington Post, Real Simple, and Forbes, and has contributed to over 45 podcasts. Prior to launching her company Mompowerment, Suzanne worked at GSD&M and National Instruments and launched a marketing business, which she still has and operates. And she is a triple Longhorn with 3 degrees from UT Austin in finance, Spanish, and her MBA. She has been my friend and mentor for almost 20 years. I hate to date us like that, but I think that we're going on 20 years. We've known each other through so many different phases of our lives as single ladies, as corporate gals, and I have now followed her footsteps in the founder path. She's given me so much valuable advice, me and so many others, and insights over the years. So I know this is going to be a special and meaningful conversation. Welcome, Suzanne. It is so wonderful to be here with you. If folks are watching on video, they can see the smiles on our faces. And if they're listening in audio, they can probably just hear them because I think we really enjoy being together. I just skimmed the surface in my intro about you, but could you share a little bit about yourself and your family life to kick us off?
Sure. So as you said, I am a 2-time entrepreneur. Right now, I worked in the corporate world for like 12 years. And then as part of that last experience, like the last few moments of that experience, I transitioned to a part-time role while at GSD&M. And GSD&M was a great employer because they were balance friendly. And GSD&M is it's an ad agency, and that is not really a place that industry isn't known for being so family friendly, balance friendly. You know, work-life balance is like, wait, what? That's not a concept that's really, we'll call it embraced by that industry. But GSD&M was. And so I negotiated transitioning to a part-time role. And ultimately that change, as I was becoming a mom, that is what eventually became Mompowerment. That's the catalyst, right? Because when I negotiated to a part-time role, that I literally cut my time in half. Wow. I mean, that was what was negotiated. And so I got stopped, as you can imagine, mainly by moms, my colleagues, friends of my colleagues who said, like, you know, how did you know you could do this? How did you do it? Slowly tell me the words that you said. Like, can you repeat that so I can write it down? And I tried to send people somewhere, and there was nowhere to send anybody. And so about a year after becoming a mom, I became 100% entrepreneur. I had a side gig for, at that point, almost 8 years. And so I just focused my attention on that. That was my marketing business. But there was this idea of Mompowerment. And so that became my second business because I said, I have to be able to do something here to help these working moms understand that there is another option. Mm-hmm. And then over time, Mompowerment has evolved. So the first focus was on successfully transitioning to a part-time role. And then it was work-life balance in general. And then it was, hey, can you give me some ideas? And so I've done more strategy work, like one-on-one with moms. And then companies said, hey, since you know working moms, can you come and help us with this? And, oh, can you do workshops? And so it's just evolved over time. And all of this is literally while I have 2 active young boys. I joke about the fact that I had a brainstorming session to come up with the Mompowerment name on a Friday. And on Monday, our younger son was born. So that's how closely integrated and just completely intertwined my work and my children are. Like, they have literally never known me to not be a working mother.
Wow, amazing. Man, you were working just until the last minute, weren't you?
Yeah. Right down to the last minute. And so I get to still be the mom that I want to be, and I get to be engaged and still have 2 different businesses and try to have time for social life and all those other kinds of things. But it's a lot at the same time.
Well, does AI help you in any way? How does AI show up in your home life or in your work life?
I use AI every workday, pretty much without fail. So AI for me is, it's like my brainstorming tool. Like, I am constantly asking questions of how can I rephrase this? I'm trying to do these things together. How can I package it differently? I have this, and this, but I feel like I'm missing something. What else could I add to that? And a lot of times it's based on what I have shared before. So instead of me trying to think through like, okay, well, what's that final thing that I can talk about? AI can look through all of the stuff that I've shared before and say, hey, you know, this piece would work really nicely there. How about you talk about that in this group of things? It's funny, we're recording this during Stress Awareness Month, and I have a series of videos. So I do videos on LinkedIn on Tuesdays for working moms and dads, and then on Thursdays for business leaders. And every week's video, it's Stress Awareness Month, has been based on an acronym. And all of those are AI generated. So it's based on my content, right? But it's like, how can I repackage that so that it can be an acronym?
Yeah, so your thought leadership, your guidance, the human part of what you bring just augmented or polished up a little bit by AI.
It can think through a ton of things and spit them out in moments, right? Instead of me digging through all of the stuff that I do and like writing it down, and it's like, okay, well, that could stand for this, but what could it, like, it's a time saver from a work perspective. In my own life, like in my personal life, it is one of my go-to tools in particular for travel.
Tell me more.
So, you're going to a place, especially if it's somewhere new, and there are all of these articles that are on like, going to New York with your family, right? And I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. The things that they want to do are very different than if I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, right? And so being able to say, here are our areas of interest. Here's what they want to be able to do. We want to be able to have an active day. Give us some options if it's a rainy day. How can we move these things around, right? And I will also ask it to give me an itinerary so that we're doing things that are like in the same part of the city.
Yes.
So it's not like
optimize it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is essentially an optimized itinerary for a family with 2 active young boys who are interested in XYZ, right? And I can certainly find that, but I'm going to have to do a lot of reading.
Right. Save you the legwork, personalize it, optimize it for you. All of that is involved in time saving.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is once it spits it out, like once it creates the itinerary and you go and there's a rainy day, right? You can say, hey, it's going to be raining tomorrow. What can I shift up so that I can do this? And it's like, and it will give you advice like there's going to be a long line there, you have to be there early because of XYZ. Like, so it gives you those tips that you can absolutely find them.
Yes.
But it's just a much quicker way to get that information, and it's so personalized.
Yes. And it's that mental load reduction of like, oh, I don't have to make the plan. I have a partner in helping me make the plan, or at least do the first draft for me. I love that edit on the weather. I want to back up though just a little bit, because what I've learned from you so much about work-life balance. You have been writing and talking about work-life balance for over a decade. So can you just help ground us in a definition of work-life balance and how you help moms and women and your clients achieve it?
So the way I look at work-life balance is essentially it's finding the time, space, and energy for the people and the things that you care about. That is ultimately what work-life balance is. When you remove this unlikely, let's be honest, unachievable 50-50 split each day, and you look at your time and your energy over the course of what I call the long term, but that could be a week, a month, any kind of season, a whole year. It's essentially a long-term approach to your life, right? And that allows you to make small changes over time. It's not about 50-50 split every day, and if I don't achieve it, then I'm terrible at work-life balance, because that's not generally the case. But because we have this unrealistic definition, we all feel like we're failing. Right? And I almost feel like when you do hit that 50-50 split, it's almost either luck or by chance. And so when you remove that, then all of a sudden you've got the wiggle room to allow what I essentially call a pendulum, right? Because there are times when, there are weeks, there are days, there are whole seasons that are more about work, and then there are others that are more about life. And you allow that pendulum to sway when you look at the long term, instead of on Monday I failed at work-life balance, on Tuesday I failed at work-life balance, and so that is why I absolutely think that work-life balance is something that we can bring into our lives, right?
That makes my shoulders go down just thinking about removing the pressure of trying to achieve this perfect 50-50 split over a day or a week or a month, and instead just let the pendulum swing back and forth and make sure that it keeps swinging and doesn't go too wide one way or the other.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is that there are seasons of the year. If you work for a company, if you have any kind of business, you are naturally going to have weightier times of the year, a product launch, a major client initiative, like whatever the case is, that is always the case. You're launching a service. There is naturally a weightier time of the year, always, like for pretty much everybody that is working. And there are going to be times when you are more needed as a mother or a caregiver.
Yes. Well, how do you think AI is or can help, and how can it hinder with work-life balance? How is it going to help and harm us as we integrate more AI into our lives?
So I think the important thing to remember is you still have to have the strategy when you're approaching AI. You have to know essentially which levers you want to pull. Is it with something like meal planning, and that can be for recipes and meal planning, and I learned this from you, of being able to say, here are the things that I still have in my fridge and my pantry. What can I do with that, right?
Make some magic of these.
Yeah, I mean, but it is a helpful tool, right? Or I had wanted to use this recipe. I don't have this particular ingredient. What's another recipe that's going to get me kind of the same result without that one piece, right? So it's a great tool in your toolbox, but it is not instead of you doing the thinking, you doing the strategic framework of when and why am I going to use AI. So that I think is incredibly important to remember. It is not going to replace your brain power, right? Of the initial walking in and saying, okay, how and when am I going to use AI? On the flip side, AI can help you in so many different areas as a working mother, because it can help you with something like meal planning. It can help you with figuring out, the plan for the week of, here are all of the different things in the schedule. How can I make this, how can I be more organized with this? It can give you ideas on organizing things in your house. And all of those things are related to the mental load, but they're also related to being more productive in your house, working smarter in your house, so you can use it. It's almost like an endless possibility of when you use it. It's just what makes sense in your world.
Yes. I have to know my priorities, right? I have to, but AI can help me achieve them once I know what at least I'm setting out to do. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I also think that being able to articulate those priorities helps AI be a better tool for you.
And this, to me, could not have come at a better time, because one thing that you talk about, I've read about in your newsletter, that recent Surgeon General's warning about the looming crisis that's coming. Do you think this is the right time for AI to come in and help us, or can we continue to carry this on our own?
The problem is, the Surgeon General's warning, the thing about that warning is, if you were in this space, you already knew this was an issue, right? But the fact that the Surgeon General talked about this level of stress and just all of the things that are coming at working parents, especially working mothers, you already knew it was there. But it got a lot of other people talking about it. Yeah. But the challenge is that warning didn't say, here's how you alleviate it. It just said, warning. The problem is that we are still talking about that it is an issue. Not enough people are talking about, here are the tips, the tricks, the hacks. And so AI can be such a helpful tool. And I have no doubt that it can be scary for some people to say like, oh, I'm going to hand this over to technology. And no, you're not handing it over to technology. Technology is just your friend in order to be able to alleviate the stress, in order to give you some ideas, in order to say, here are your priorities that you have already told me. Here are all the things that you're dealing with. What if you did A, B, C? That would help you here, right?
It's 2.5, right?
Okay, so 2.5 years. Yeah.
2.5 years.
I think that has, so many people have embraced AI. They're not necessarily doing it in their personal lives though, right? And I don't know if working mothers are saying AI can help me in all of these different areas. And so I think that more and more it's being able to share, how do you use it? When do you use it? Why do you use it? So that people start to get those ideas of, okay, I can use it here. Oh, I hadn't even thought about using AI for this, right? Because so often you hear somebody say, I use this for travel planning. Oh, I hadn't even thought about using it for travel planning, right? And then you go and you use it for travel planning. Or it had never occurred to me to think about like, here's what's left in my fridge, until that was one of the prompts that you had shared. And it's like, that's such a good idea. I mean, you know what I mean? So I think that just with any tool, with any tips, you're constantly getting ideas and then you adjust them for your life.
Well, you mentioned that it's Stress Awareness Month. And are there ways that AI can help us with stress management? Can AI help? And how do we find the balance between AI support for stress management and maybe where human intervention is required?
So I am a believer that a little bit of stress is actually a good thing. Okay. It can motivate you. It can help you learn things. It can push you out of your comfort zone, right? There's definitely good aspects of stress. Okay. When stress becomes a hindrance for your everyday life, that is when you need to seek out help. Okay. And that might be someone within the mental health space. It might mean literally that you have to outsource a portion of your life, right? So it really depends on what is the impact of this stress, how you decide where you go, okay? But I think AI can be a really helpful tool in the most basic things of, I have 10 minutes and I need something because I am about to hit the roof. What can give me some ideas on what I can literally do in the next 8 minutes, right? And you can say, here are the things that I'm interested in, here, and literally it's just like, in that 10 minutes, 1 minute of it can be you writing out the right prompt, and then you'll have 9 minutes to do whatever it is that it suggests, right? So I think that something like that can be really helpful. But I think part of the stress is literally like spinning all of the plates, right? So having a tool that you can go to help you understand, how can I better manage that plate, is going to naturally alleviate the stress.
I think this is why we were talking earlier about how much people love to connect with you, like myself. And what you just said exemplifies that for me, because it feels so validating to hear that not only is a little bit of stress okay, it can be a motivator, but when I find the line that's where I've gone too far, there are different ways for me to get help. AI can be one of them right in the moment, or I can work on something much longer term.
Yeah.
And do you think can AI help me if I'm spinning all the plates and it's become too many? Can AI help me figure out, can one of these plates drop? Is that a solution for AI, or do you think that requires human intervention?
I think that you can get ideas and say, what are some of the things that I can let go, right? Or what are some of the things that I can delegate, or even who can I delegate to? Because, you aren't necessarily going to see all of the different ways that you can delegate, or all of the ways that you can look at an outside resource. I had a conversation before I had children. So like literally like as baby number 1 wasn't even born, but I was very pregnant. And the advice was from a friend who had twins. And she said, one of the best things that I have done was to hire a sitter, like someone who you trust, and for you and your spouse to have a sleep date. So basically so you hire the sitter to come over at 8 p.m. and you and your significant other just go to bed. Literally. Go to sleep. Okay? You literally just go to sleep. Okay? And so you do, your last nursing, and then you hand off your child or your children, and you just go to sleep.
And rest easy knowing somebody else has got
someone's there. And I happened to get that tip from a really good friend of mine. But we all need those kinds of tips. And so AI has all, like, they can tap into all of these different resources. And I think that that's one of those things that it is like, it's like that friend who has a lot of experience, and then you can adjust it as necessary.
So AI can help you come up with the ideas and the strategies. If you know the problem that you're trying to solve or the stress that you're experiencing, AI can give you the tips, and then you and I still have to take action to make them happen. You still had to find that babysitter. But once you've got the tip, then to me, that's where AI can really help, is with the generation of the ideas, come up with the tips, and then you run and put them into action.
Yeah, I will also say, when you start to engage with an AI tool for long enough, it's also kind of amazing how well it starts to understand your needs. And you can ask some of those kind of unusual questions of, in this case, I'm feeling stressed. Knowing what you know about me, what are some of the things that I need to be looking for or that I can do to deal with the stressful moment because I'm dealing with XYZ right now? Like, it starts to understand your preferences, and it can give you some really great advice in a pretty amazing way.
Yes.
Because the word choice that you use, the things that you share, all of those things peel back one more layer of who you are and what your preferences are and what your priorities are, what you care, like all of those things. And it's constantly gathering that data, right? And it's kind of amazing how well some of that advice can be, even though it's been there all along, but it is gathering that data, and then it can just give you a mirror.
And sometimes a very flattering mirror. Some people call generative AI a yes and machine, like saying yes to you. But if you prompt it correctly, then you can get a critical picture of yourself as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. Like what am I missing? And it's like, well, if you had, it's like, all right there. Yeah, I mean, it is. But I think it really is this amazing tool in your toolkit. And I think for those moms, caregivers, women who aren't using this valuable tool, you are missing a resource that you can really start to kind of fundamentally have as like your personal, mirror, brainstorm friend. Like I think that I get that it can be scary, right? And you don't want to give it anything that you wouldn't want in a public space, right? But so much of our lives are already in a public space.
Yes.
So there's a lot that you can share with any AI tool.
And when you have access to that friend that helped you with that tip, the amazing mom who's a little bit ahead of you and had more children or had them earlier and can share their lessons learned, great, soak it up from that friend. But we don't always have access to that person to give us the advice right there in the moment when we need it.
No, and I think the other layer is we don't always ask. You don't want to say, I'm struggling. This is just weighing me down. I'm having a hard time with this, right? So you don't talk about the things that are challenging until they are way too much.
That is so true.
Right? So it's either and especially even in social media, you either see the everything is lovely and happy, or I'm just disintegrated into a puddle, right? But life is what happens between those two extremes, right? And so often, because you don't see others who are sharing that they are struggling, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? I'm doing something wrong. Clearly, I've missed this. Was this in some class that I just didn't get the information on? And it's because we just don't share. And so people don't even know to give you those tips. And so I think that sometimes being able to go to AI and say, I'm struggling with this. And often, AI doesn't normally say, well, that's because you suck, right? Like that's not generally the feedback that you get. AI will say, a lot of moms are struggling with this.
Yes.
Here are some of the things, here are some ways that you might be able to deal with this challenge, right? And I think sometimes just having literally technology say to you, okay, I'm totally normal here, can be less intimidating than going to a mom friend and saying, I'm struggling. I can't figure this out. This is not working for me. And honestly, being vulnerable.
A safe, non-judgmental place where you can ask for help without being a burden to someone else. Because I know so many moms struggle to ask for help because they don't want to burden anybody else. So I love this picture that you have painted ChatGPT as our mom's assistant, the mom that you can go to, the mom's friend that you can go to get the help that you need for questions like a sleep break.
But that way you can go and talk to people and feel more empowered in those conversations instead of feeling like you're failing.
Exactly. Well, let's shift into what I am affectionately calling chatbot mode. I just want to ask you a few rapid fire questions and just get the first answer that comes to mind. No pressure. Let's start with just work-life balance. Is there one work-life balance myth that you would like to debunk?
Think straight up the fact that it is a myth.
The myth is work-life balance is a myth?
Yeah, because work-life balance is not a myth, but it probably looks different and feels different than what you thought it would be before you had kids or before you became a caregiver.
Well, what about AI? What's your favorite AI tool?
I'm a ChatGPT girl.
Your favorite use case for your home life? Your favorite way to use it at home?
I think definitely the travel one.
What about work? Your favorite use case for work?
I literally have just a single, like one of the many folders, I don't know what they're called, is called rephrasing. Like, literally, that is all that prompt is for. Yeah, because sometimes you write it and it's like, that doesn't sound right. You try again and it's like, can you just help fix this? Like, this just seems too clunky. I will say, honestly, I rarely take anything from ChatGPT and use it as is, like almost. But not having to start from scratch again, it just makes me feel lighter.
Yeah. Well, speaking of feeling lighter, when you're feeling, in honor of Stress Awareness Month, when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, what's the first thing you do?
I do deep breathing. So my own preferred breathing technique is called the 4-7-8. So you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, you release for 8.
Wow. It might take me a little time to work up to release for 8, but I love it.
So I will say though, the beautiful thing about breath work in general is this is something that I have worked on with my children, especially at like bedtime. Right? Of like, they're swirling, they're excited, there's this, and it's like, do 10 4-7-8s, and then I'll come back in here, and then like, we can just talk for a few minutes, and then you'll be ready to go to bed, right? But I have seen my older son use the 4-7-8. So both of my boys play tennis. I have seen my older son use the 4-7-8 on the tennis court. Like, he's just had a point where he did not succeed, right? Like, he hit into the net, he hit out, whatever the case is, and he's super frustrated and he's mad. And instead of that impacting the next several points, I will literally watch him from the sideline use the 4-7-8 and like, he's ready for the next point.
Oh my gosh, proud mom moment. How did you feel when you saw him doing that?
I was so relieved that he understood a different place for that tool to work.
What an amazing gift to give to yourself and to your children. To help manage stress in this way. Well, what about when you find 5 minutes? What's your favorite way or more? What's your favorite way to relax?
I love to read. And I will say, bonus, if you read for 6 or more minutes, it actually lowers your heart rate.
Any book recommendations? Anything you've been reading lately that you've been loving?
I have really enjoyed Emily Henry's books. Mm-hmm. So she's written books like they have some meat, but they are great like beach reads. I have a book called Beach Read. I can't remember that's who wrote it or not. But there is lightness to them. Mm-hmm. There is a happy ending to them. But there is also turmoil. Like, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. You know? And then my other one, which is definitely a page turner because they're thrillers, is pretty much anything by Lucy Foley.
Yes. Did she write The Paris Apartment?
Yes. But don't read that one first. She has written many books, but The Paris Apartment is different than her other books.
Okay. Thanks for the tip.
Yes.
Well, last question for you. If there's anything that you could share with your younger working mom self, what would you tell her?
I think the thing that I would try to remind her of is you can't force it. Like, you need to let the things, you need the process, because forcing it doesn't necessarily improve the results or make it happen faster.
Well, Susie, this has been such a special time to spend together. And for me, the thing that I'm going to leave and take with me is that the myth about work-life balance is that it is a myth. It is not a myth. And I love our conversation about that work-life balance isn't about doing it all. It's about doing what matters, and that how AI can help us. If we know our strategies and priorities, if we know where areas where we're struggling, AI can help us like that mom's friend to give us ideas on what we can do. So thank you so much for spending this time with me and sharing your learnings and your journey. I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you for the encouragement to keep going, and I will. We'll be back next week with another episode on the AI Empowered Mom podcast. And in the meantime, if folks want to hear more from you, they can find you on Instagram at Mompowerment. They can find you on LinkedIn, where you publish those amazing videos, your weekly video series. They can find you on your website, mompowerment.com, where they can get links to purchase your book. Here's a copy of one of the books that I have here. Well, thank you for joining me, and thanks to anyone listening to AI Empowered Mom. I hope today gave you a little bit of clarity, a little bit of confidence, and maybe even left you feeling a little bit empowered to try something new with AI this week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.